Welcome to MMA from London to LA. This is Colin Crandall, along with my co-host, the man who I think should be the actual king of England, Mr. Callum Sanderson. How's it going today, Callum?
Not too bad, thank you. I'm working on becoming the king. I'm working on it.
Absolutely. I think you would
not like Bobby Green. Not like Bobby Green, but I'm still working on it.
Yes. Actually, to get the title, I think it'd be great. I think you would be quite comfortable in the royal. What is our place called? The Palace or something?
Yeah, Buckingham Palace.
Buckingham Palace. I can see you there. But listen, mate, I am excited to go over the UFC fights. We'll do a quick recap, everybody, and then we will go over next week's fights. And so let's jump into this. Not too much time over the prelims. It was somewhat of a no-name card. Also, by the way, I forgive me, I did not mention that our third partner and co-host Chris Allen was not able to make it, had something urgent to do, and he will return next week. So you got the two of us here as I continue my Mad Dogs and Englishmen tour, where I'll be the Mad Dog and my man Callum here will play the part of the Englishman. All right, and here we go. So in that first fight, Haley Cowan, who missed weight, and Jamie Lynn Horth. Interesting thing, Callum, over the years, I would say, excluding the past full year, I'd say, it used to give fighters an advantage when they missed weight. I think for a bit of time, consistently, about 70 to 75% of fighters that missed weight with that advantage would win. However, in the last 12 or 16 months, haven't seen that at all. I think it's a solid 50-50, if not less than that, for the fighters that have missed weight. Kind of odd how a trend can change like that without explanation. But perhaps just a year and a half is not a long enough sample size to see that it really will change truly. But interesting.
Sorry, before you move on, can I just ask, do you think it should just be a higher fine or less money going to the fight if they miss weight, unless there's like extenuating circumstances? Because it is a requirement. It's in the contract. Like, what can really be done to stop it? Because it's not fair on the fighter who has drained themselves to make weight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as we know, or most of you watching know, but some might not, that there does end up being a fine where a portion of the fighter that did miss weight, their purse will go to the other fighter. However, it's no more than, I think it's somewhere between 10 and 30%. I think at one point maybe 40, but then some of these fighters are only making $5,000 for their fight. So when they're losing 10, if it's 10%, it's $500. And I see your point. I think the difference might be that if they made it quite a bit higher. But I think that then we would see some fighters who literally may have done their best, but something went wrong, losing a chunk out of the money that they needed. And I know we're not trying to get the fighters paid less, but maybe something like that, or possibly maybe one thing. What's that?
More weight categories, maybe.
But I agree with that. And in fact, I don't know if most people know, but about 6 years ago, at least in the United States, I think it's 5 new weight categories, 4 or 5. I'll count them out here in a moment. Were added as viable and sanctionable weight classes, but I do not think anybody implemented them. Certainly, none of the major 4 sanctioning or promotions, including the UFC, Bellator, PFL, one championship. I don't think Cage Warriors did as well, although I heard someone in Europe may have. But what we're talking about is what was approved, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, is that you could remove 170 and you could stick in 165. So you'd have you would stick in 165 and 175.
Yeah.
So, and remove 170. So you'd have 155, 165, 175, 185. And then there was also, you could also stick in a 195 and a 225.
Oh.
And that would be really great, because then you'd have, so many fighters would be in the 165 class, and the ones that had a hard time making 55, and then some would be in 175. So it was 4 weight classes: 165, 175, 195, and 225. and it'd be removing 170. But it seems like no one's done that. I think that would be a big answer and a great help, because as you see in boxing, guys are hardly ever missing weight because there are so many weight classes. They have less than 10 pounds American, or 3/4 of a stone over there. You know, and so, you know, that, or I would think possibly you could say that that if you win, the win would be then made into a no contest or something. Also, that would be, although that would be very extreme. I don't know, but it is unfortunate. Doesn't happen too much, but weight categories, I think, as you mentioned, would be probably the best idea, and I think we would see that a lot less as boxing would show. All right, so Haley Cowan, Jamie Lynn Horth, 2 newcomers. Cowan missed weight, and she lost by unanimous decision to Jamie Lynn Horth. There's not a lot of interest in that. I don't think you or I have comments on that. So continuing on. Sorry, Marcus McGee and Journey Newsom. McGee was a newcomer. I'll tell you what, McGee, the Maniac, is a 32-year-old.
Very fun.
Yeah. Training on MMA Lab. Record. He came into this fight with a 6-1 record. He had fought several fights at LFA. Unusual looking guy. He looks like he's maybe like a Pacific Islander or something from you know, Trinidad or something like that. Originally, he's got the braids. He looks like a bit of an older guy. His face looks a bit older even than 32. I thought he was an interesting looking character, and because of that, I actually said I think this guy will win. I said this guy's a unique dude. I just have a feeling this guy's going to do something. And not only did he win, but he continued his record of finishing fights. So out of 7 wins, he now has 7 finishes. Well, then why have they not added this up? Yes, they have, correctly. 6 stoppages and 1 submission. So this guy's a tough guy. He's going to be a great addition to the which weight class was that? Was that lightweight? No, that was either bantam or was that feather? You know, it's funny. It shows both.
Bantam.
It was bantam. Okay, excellent.
I believe so.
Yeah, I think so. So he'll be an interesting addition. Any thoughts, really quick, on?
I like the look of him. He's a really good skateboarder as well. So.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Could be quite fun having him in the division as well.
I think so. He's a smart fighter. He's an aggressive fighter, and unique looking dude. He's a character. I like it. I think he can make some noise. Okay, so continuing on, after that McGee fight, we had Irina Alexeva and Stephanie Egger. Alexeva missed weight substantially, 5 pounds. She should have weighed in at 135 with a 1 pound allowance, and she weighed in at 140. So it's actually 5 pounds off the 135 mark, but just 4 pounds off of the acceptable 136. That weight means a lot for the women. And Stephanie Egger is a good fighter. So, in all honesty, to me, I put an asterisk next to that win.
So,
and then Stephanie, Alexeva tried to walk around like Conor McGregor after. I thought it was a bit disingenuous when you missed weight fairly substantially, and then you act like you've done something, you know. So that to me, that's a thumbs down.
I agree. You got to have some humility. If you're effectively cheating to an extent. So you've got to have some humility.
Yeah, she should have caged the, they're not caged, but she should have, packed up and passed on the celebration, like we said. Anyway, I had a different word I couldn't think of. Anyway, Cody Durden and Charles Johnson at flyweight. Looks like it was a very good fight. I have to admit, I missed that fight, and I've read a lot about it. It seems like a competitive fight. Durden was the underdog, and he did win all 3 rounds, it looks like. So, that's a good win for him. Johnson's a tough guy. I think he'll be back. But any thoughts on that?
No, I thought it was a competitive fight. I thought it was a good fight, and I look forward to see what they both do next, to be honest.
Yep, absolutely. Me too. Then you had the big man, Martin Boudet, just made 265 with 1 pound to spare. Jake Collier, 265 and a half. So he had a half a pound to spare. Interesting.
Proper heavyweights.
Absolutely proper heavyweights, without a doubt. And it looks like they had they definitely had a pretty good matchup. Collier, as far as the judging, it was Boudet 2 rounds to 1, and that's what it was. Interestingly enough, no split decisions on this card at all, after having numerous split decisions on numerous cards. A lot of strange things happening in MMA, I'll tell you. But yeah, Boudet did beat Jake Collier, and he also wins for having the name closest to a bidet, which is a toilet with a fountain effect. So good show on that one, mate. For Jordan Bidet. All respect to him, though. I don't want to have
you said it, not me.
No, exactly. I don't want to have my space smashed in by, but anyway. So okay, so as that was a good. Collier will be back, I'm sure. Josh Quinlan against Trey Waters. Trey Waters is a 6'5". Was it welterweight? No, he's not even. I think it is. Let me see. He is a 6'5" welterweight. That is extraordinarily tall. Very tall.
Really tall.
Kevin Holland is close at about maybe 6'3.5", almost 6'4", but 6'5".
I mean, that's Anthony Smith's height.
Yeah. And some people say Smith isn't really that tall. So just think of him as taller than John Jones. He's like Alex Pereira height at 170. But Josh Quinlan is an interesting, tough guy. And Quinlan was the favorite and the underdog, the tall man. Trey Waters came up with the victory. Any thoughts on that?
A bit of a shock, but I mean, if Trey puts it all together, if he's able to use his range and his height and his reach, etc., he could become a real problem in this division. And maybe looking at his frame as well, he could even go up a weight as well, potentially.
Absolutely. Yeah. I could see that for sure. Well, you could say with him is he's got the tray. All we need is the food to place on it then, right, mate?
Yeah.
All we need is the fish and chips to place on the tray. If we're in England, right? And so, anyway, I like it. Be very good. Trey Waters, great victory. Congratulations to him and Josh Quinlan. And then we have Wado, Cortez Acosta, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. So it's actually 3 names for both of them. One is hyphenated and one is DE space Lima. So that was a battle of several different names there. And the favorite was the Brazilian Marcos Rogerio de Lima. The man he was going against was from the United States, Salsa Boy, Wado Cortez Acosta. And tough fight. Herb Dean in there refereeing. And I think that it was solid 2-1. Marcos Rogerio de Lima a little bit more experienced, but Acosta looks like he's got some potential, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, Costa's tough as anything. He was taking some really heavy leg kicks in that fight. I think de Lima, he did really well in the first 2 rounds. He looked like he just took his foot off the gas in the third and was more about survival and securing the win. But he fought really well in the first 2 rounds. Changes tactic completely in the third round, and Wilder was starting to get a few punches in, but no real danger. He was never in danger, so it was a comfortable win. Even though it's 2-1 on the scorecard, it was very comfortable for him, in my opinion, and he progressed and moves on. But I think Wado has got a good future at heavyweight as well.
Absolutely. And if I don't stop this going to weddings and eating too much, I'll have a future at heavyweight, which would not be good at my height. But nevertheless, we have Julian Erosa and Fernando Padilla. Juicy J, Julian Erosa. So definitely an early stoppage seemed to me. What do you think?
So, all right. So first and foremost, Padilla's punch selection and accuracy and power looked really good. Like when he started, and I mean, we all know Erosa's tough as nails, but Padilla was just picking him off. I am not overly mad at the stoppage, even though I understand some of the frustration, but it did look like he was going to start getting really pieced up there. Like there was a couple times where you almost saw him, he half was going out, but then he didn't. It was almost like he was rising from the dead almost. But I don't think it was the worst stoppage, but I do think it could have been allowed to continue a little bit longer. And it's a weird one because we discussed this last week on last week's card, and we said, maybe you want to err on the side of caution. I think the ref probably was just being a little too cautious there. But if I'm going to be honest, I think the ref kind of saved him from more damage because Padilla didn't look like he was going to ease up at all.
Yeah. I'm not that much against that, so I think that's a valid thought, and we do care about fighter safety without a doubt. I agree. Okay, Yep. All right. Next up, we have Cody Brundage, the wrestler, against Adolfo Vieira, world champion jiu-jitsu man, many times over. And I think a lot of us had a feeling this would go down this way. It was kind of a favorable matchup for Vieira, although Brundage is a tough guy, but neither of them have much striking ability. And so even though you do have the better wrestler in Brundage, he wasn't like a tremendously decorated wrestler, not like a Bo Nickel or even close, but a good wrestler against a man who definitely has some wrestling and has tremendous jiu-jitsu and who's also very strong. I think Brundage kind of figured, my game is wrestling. I don't want to sit up here and do some lame striking with this guy. I have a feeling he could have if he wanted to. But nevertheless, the wrong idea was to be on the ground with Vieira. And then he went for a submission. I mean, I don't know about you, and I have all respect for Brundage. He's from Michigan, like I am originally from the state of Michigan. But, from jiu-jitsu class, and it's very different in a fight. But normally if someone's more than one belt higher than you, you're normally not going to really try to submit them because it's a bit of an insult, and majority of the time you're not gonna get them. And right, and so you're trying to. But you know what I think? In a prior fight about 2-3 years ago, Fluffy Hernandez did submit Vieira, but he had beaten the crap out of him. Vieira had not yet learned the pace. He had extra muscle on him that he's since gotten rid of a bit of, and he was completely exhausted. He was getting lit up with the strikes, and that's how he was submitted. But you're just not gonna submit a guy like Adolfo Vieira when he's not hurt badly or exhausted, and he was neither of those, as you would say. But anyway, very slick submission. Brundage gave it a tough shot, but did get caught. Vieira's pretty impressive, gotta say.
He is. Yeah, I agree. Brundage. It's weird because look, in the first round he was like getting to him, but then you saw Rodolfo starting to take over as the round finished, and then, as you said, he went for the guillotine, and he never had the guillotine, and he had the arms locked in, but he never had the body position. And then as soon as Rodolfo got out of the guillotine, you just knew there was trouble. He went for the arm triangle at first. Brundage escaped, tried to give him his back, went back to the same position, and then this time it was just murder, she wrote, and brilliant finish. Well done to Rodolfo.
Absolutely. It's funny. The next fight shows me an interesting opponent for Rodolfo, his fellow Brazilian, Caio Bahalio. They don't like to fight each other, though, because, they're not there's so many people around the world that are involved, and Brazil is not a huge fraction of the world. I thought I had heard a fighter say that Brazil was not the biggest country. Someone brought that to my attention, saying it is actually somewhat of a large country, but still, nevertheless, if you look at the amount of countries in the world that have men participating in MMA, Brazil is just a very small fraction of the world. And because of that, they feel like, why should we have to go against each other when there's so many other people? That stated, it would be very interesting because I think Bahalio is a bit taller and also a bit younger, but relies on his jiu-jitsu. But his jiu-jitsu is he's not as decorated jiu-jitsu guy by a long shot, I think, as Adolfo Vieira. That would be an interesting fight. It's funny, I was the one that made the match, even though I've been given no credit, but I was the one that essentially made the match that we saw yesterday, Caio Bahalio against Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, by posting it on Twitter randomly several weeks, I think more than 3 weeks before the fight was announced. And when I posted it, Bahalio jumped in on my Twitter post saying, yeah, I would be down for that fight. So it's clearly had not even been in discussion. So perhaps maybe I need to, maybe.
I know you need a little percentage of that.
I would like that. I could use it. It would be nice. But maybe they're going to look at me as a matchmaker going forward, but an unpaid one. I don't know. Maybe I don't want to give away too many more suggestions. But still, if I did, I think it'd be interesting. But nevertheless, great win by Vieira, Bahalio, and Oleksiejczuk, or Oleksiejczuk is how they pronounce it. And Bahalio was a big favorite. I thought Oleksiejczuk had a decent chance, and he tried, but he just didn't really get a lot of stuff going. Bahalio seemed like a man on a mission, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, Oleksiejczuk in the first round was really throwing. He's throwing so hard, like he literally throwing everything into every punch. You're thinking, are you gonna gas yourself out? And then Bahalio just kept himself really composed. Going into the fight, he was saying how much he wanted to finish because all of his previous wins had come by way of decision, and he said he didn't want to be known as a decision fighter. The moment he got into a situation where he could get the submission, though, he looks so comfortable. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's his personality, even looks wise, the fact that he wears glasses as well. He just reminds me a little bit of Charles Oliveira. I don't know what it is. He just there's something bigger about him. Just has a little bit of familiarity.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? I have known for many years that glasses can be kind of an accessory for a look. It kind of gives a younger guy kind of a professional look. Obviously, I'm not a younger guy, so I do need these glasses. But I do remember at a time in my 20s, people were saying, oh, yeah, it'll make you look more professional. So I think I did have a pair of glasses with just a slight prescription. But you see some of these fighters with glasses that are in their 20s or early 30s that are in tremendous health. And you look at them and their reflexes and their eyes and their vision seem to be spot on, as you would say. And so why the hell they are wearing glasses? I wonder, is it an affectation, kind of a professional look? Or do some of these young guys have bad eyesight? It'd be surprising to me if they really had tremendously bad eyesight, because then I don't know that they'd be in this line of work. What do you think?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of both. Some use it as fashion. I think Conor McGregor uses it as fashion.
Yeah.
Oliveira actually needs glasses. Apparently his eyesight's pretty bad.
Interesting. I also heard a fan make a comment on Twitter that said that that Bahalio looked like a kind of a cross between they said something like, they said it looks like a poor man's version of Paulo Costa combined with Lionheart Smith.
I don't see that one.
And that wasn't me saying that.
I don't. He just reminds me of Oliveira. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, a bit, but he's a brilliant fighter. Really, really good fighter. Anyway, so great win for him. I'm sure Oleksiejczuk will be back. And then that brings us to the main event. We'll get on to next week, which is what you guys want to hear from us. Ricky Simone, Yadong Song. I was with Simone. I liked that camp. I had Coach Colin Oyama on for an interview on Twitter Spaces on Tuesday, MMA Power Hour show. Simone looked fine, starting out good, but Song was just able to kind of take the play away from him and come up with some successful strikes. A bit of an early stoppage again. Many people felt, although he was absorbing damage, but it seemed like he was moving. He was improving his position a little bit, and it looked like he was looking for a leg, which is what a wrestler would do to try to get the takedown. I think it was a bit early, but Yadong looked good in there. Yadong looked good in there. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think he didn't recover from this is Ricky Simone. He didn't recover after the knockdown at the end of the fourth round, and then in the fifth it was a heavy knockdown, and he was starting to build. But when I'm more comfortable knowing that the stoppage was right when the fight stopped and the fighter who was taking the damage gets up and they're still stumbling around. That to me lets me know that he stops at a good time. And Yadong hits really hard. He hits really hard. You only have to look at his physique to see how powerful and explosive he is. So I think it was a good stoppage. Ricky Simone is excellent as well. He will come again and still make good fights in this division. But yes, they belong to Yadong. And I mean, he called out O'Malley and he called out Chito Vera. He won't get the O'Malley fight because O'Malley's going to wait for the title shot. Him versus Chito. I mean, it could happen. I know Cheeto's called out Piotr Yan, so I don't know. I mean, Chito would prefer the Yan fight, but I mean, Yadong maybe and Rob Font. I'd be up for that.
That would be good. Well, mention with Chito Yadong. Someone saying, "Don't be Cheetoing Yadong," at that point. But listen, I would also say, my man Song Yadong, he's doing two things. He's singing a sad song, and he's also singing. I forgot the other one. I had it right in my head, but he's singing a sad song, and he's talking the trash of the song of the trash song. So that's what we have created. We have created a sad song and a trash songing yadong of song. So there we go. There's that. Anyway, continuing on. Let's see here. We have coming up, this is going to be UFC 288, the Prudential Center in Newark, New Jersey. Love that place. That is a place probably about as different from England as you can get, in that most people have that thick New York accent. And even though it's in New Jersey, and it's like, hey, what are you talking about? What are you doing here? Who made you boss, right? And you guys, can I say that's quite interesting? You say that, old chap, quite good. That's a stupid accent. Anyway, man, I'm gonna roll this time. Too bad Chris wasn't here to see this. Anyway, okay, let's jump on this here, and I see the time we're looking at. So yeah, perhaps we can end even a bit early, but certainly within the time zone. So yeah. Daniel Santos, Johnny Munoz Jr. I don't want to. Let's not spend minutes on every one here, because then we'll go over it. So I don't have too much of a thought on that. Do you, Santos Munoz Jr.?
Man, no, I don't. If I'm going to be honest, I don't know. I'd probably go Daniel Santos, but I wouldn't say I'm know loads about each fighter.
Yeah, me neither. All right, then we got my man Joseph, the Ugly Man Holmes. There we go. That is an interesting nickname, the Ugly Man. And he's a pretty good-looking guy, so I don't know how he came up with that, but it's good. He is a tall middleweight, 6'4", 27 years old, 8-3 as a record, and he is in, I believe, his fourth UFC fight, and he's 1-2. And he has lost one by decision, won a fight by submission, rear naked choke, and then his very next fight, he lost by rear naked choke. So he does really need this fight. He'll be fighting quite hard. And I interviewed him a couple years ago. He's a good guy, nice young man. Claudio Ribeiro is the man from Brazil, 30 years old, so he's 3 years older. Also a bit of a tall, not really actually, 6 feet even, 185 is about the average maybe for that weight class. And this is his second UFC fight. He had the misfortune of having his first fight against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and got lit up by, like most do that go against Al Hassan. Where does Al Hassan represent? He's fighting out of Texas, although I know that he's from somewhere other than that originally, but it doesn't matter. Judo Thunder is a tough guy. Both guys really want to get back on the winning track here. I think it's even more important for Holmes, being that he's got 2 losses out of 3 fights, although having 1 loss out of 1 UFC fight is not so good as well. Curious to see what the odds on that would be. Let me take a look real quick here. They do have Ribeiro almost about a solid 2-1 favorite. So I see some value in Joseph Holmes. I'd have to look at a little bit more, but I think Holmes is with a good camp. I forget what it is, but I think Holmes has as good a shot as any to win that fight, and that's about all I can say about it. How about you?
Yeah, I'd probably go with it'd be nice for Holmes to win, but I think Ribeiro. I think there's a reason he's the favorite here. Yeah. Holmes hasn't quite looked like he's ready to kick on yet. I don't know if he's maybe in the UFC a little bit too early, but
hard to say. You know what he should, instead of the Ugly Man, maybe he should use Sherlock Holmes, the old British detective from many years ago. You've heard of him, I would think.
Yeah.
I think the star of the movie was Basil Rathbone. How many men are named Basil nowadays over there? You have to be over 60 years old, I think, pretty much for that, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, nevertheless, we've got Rafael Ramos Estevam, if that's Brazilian, or Ramos if it's not. Let's take a look here. And he is Brazilian. So Rafael Ramos Estevam, nickname Macapa, 11-0, but not a single one is in the UFC. Coming off the Contender Series, he is a finisher. Out of his 11 wins, he has 7 finishes, so that's still definitely a finisher, especially for a flyweight. That is definitely a finisher for a flyweight. And he is 26 years old, going against Zhalgas Zhumagulov, the 34-year-old. Wow. Zhumagulov is a tough guy. We know we've seen him in the UFC, but were we all aware that he has a record of 1-5? in the UFC. Bit of a tough go, as you guys would say.
Definitely right? A layup fight if you ever wanted one.
Yeah, although you know what, I'll tell you what, there's some mitigating circumstances to that. His last 2 fights were split decision losses. Okay. And when they're that close, frequently it will mean that he may have won. He did win in at least a judge's eyes in both fights, and that was against Jeff Molina and Charles Johnson. Obviously, his back is completely against the wall, I would say, completely. And he's out of American Top Team, a good school. He's going to be way more experienced. Well, he's got twice the amount of fights. He's got 22 fights to Esteban's 11, but many of them are in the UFC. I'm curious I have a feeling this is going to be nearly an even. No, they've got the newcomer as nearly a 2-1 favorite. You know, if there's any time to fight your heart out, like your life depends on it, for Zhumagulov, this is that time. Because he could save his career. Now, is it possible that he wins and they cut him anyway if that's his last fight? It is. It happens occasionally. I hate to see that happen. But certainly with the loss, he's out. I think he's going to give it a tough go, and or make it a tough go for the newcomer with his 2 losses by split decision. That makes me feel that way. If they had been stoppages or unanimous decisions, I probably wouldn't be saying this. But I think Zhumagulov has a chance here. The other guy's 26 years old, just on the barely acceptable age that I would recommend anyone betting on. I fade everyone under 26 years old, and he's just 26. I think Zhumagulov has a shot here, but I wouldn't bet it. I don't think I'd bet a penny on him. What do you think?
Yeah, I feel like as a UFC have been very clever with the matchmaking here, and they've tried to give Rafa a layup, keep the O next to his name, and then try and build him up maybe as a potential fight down the line for main events and title shots potentially. Yeah,
could be. We'll have to see. I don't think you would bet any pounds on it, though.
No.
No, exactly.
Definitely not.
All right, maybe some pence, 2 pence, maybe, or if they still have that. I don't know. They still have that, do they?
Yeah.
There we go. Couple of quarters. Anyway, next we have Phil Hawes and Ikram Aliskerov. Now we know Phil Hawes is a tough guy, 34 years old for a middleweight. So, he's slightly out of his prime, but for those heavier weights, he's still viable. He's over there at Killcliff, which is absolutely amazing. Killcliff was Sanford MMA, and before that,
he hits so really hard.
Yeah, he does, and he's a very good wrestler. He's had a pretty good go in the UFC, especially when he started out. He came in, he beat Jacob Malkoun, catching him 18 seconds into the fight and stopping him. Malkoun is a tough guy, I think part of City Kickboxing Team, if I'm not mistaken. He got a majority decision over Nasruddin Imavov, who's a tough guy. He did beat Kyle Dawkins. Chris Curtis caught him in the first round, but Chris Curtis was catching everyone during that run he had. And then he did beat Daron Wynn and stop him. Then Roman Dolidze caught him, and Roman Dolidze is tough. So he's coming off a knockout. Now, who is Ikram Aliskerov? A Dagestani. Here we go. An addition of, another Dagestani for the first time. Training it, and he's out of KHK MMA team. I don't know where that is, and that's probably not where he's training. But nevertheless, Ikram is 13-1 with 9 finishes, 4 KOs, 5 submissions. 30 years old, 6 foot tall as well. This again, I'm going to say this is probably an even fight odds wise. Let's take a look, and it is not. They're making the newcomer over 2-1 favorite.
I'm guessing the wrestling is the potential wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Although Hawes is a very good wrestler, I think Phil Hawes has a chance here. I see value in Phil Hawes. Not every one of these Dagestani guys are going to be killers, although most of them are. I would maybe bet 1 unit on Phil Hawes. I just don't know how good this guy Ikram is. And the places he's fought are not giving us much of a. He won by Kimura in the first round in the Contender Series, and then he was fighting over in Brave. Where is Brave? That's not in England, or is it? I don't think so.
I think Brave is in the Middle East potentially.
I think it might be. Let's see if I can.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Mikhaev used to fight for Brave.
I think you're right. Yeah, this last fight was in Jordan. I'm on Jordan, so it is
Yeah,
the Middle East. Anyway, so no, I think Hawes is going to show a little bit of veteran experience here, and I think if the newcomer Alice Karoff thinks he's just going to go in there and wipe out a veteran like Hawes, and and
yeah,
tries to just go in there and punk him, he's going to possibly get punked himself.
rude
I think there's some
awakening.
value in Phil Hawes. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with everything you just said there. He can't, if there's any jitters or he tries to overlook Phil Hawes, then he's going to be in trouble.
Yep. All right. Parker Porter, the heavyweight, and he is 38 years old now. At least you're a heavyweight. If you're going to be that old, that's the best division to be in, because a lot of guys will go into their 40s. 12-8. He's a tough guy. He's not one of those great body guys for sure, but doesn't seem to matter. Very experienced guy. He now has 6 fights in the UFC, and he's 3-3. He's only been in the UFC for 2.5 years, not quite 3 years.
Wow, very active.
Yep. He lost to Chris Dawkins.
If I'm not mistaken, his last fight was against Justin Taffer, and I think he got stopped in that. Where he did get stopped.
He got stopped quick there, and then before that, he did lose
That was
to
in
the
Australia, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then he lost to the very tough Jailton Almeida before that, and he beat Josh Parisian, Chase Sherman, Ellen Badeau. He lost to Chris Dawkins. So the guys he's losing are good to very good. Braxton Smith is a newcomer, 5'9" at 265 pounds. So that's a stocky guy.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
5-1, and he's been fighting over in an organization called PF called Peak Fighting, and that is in Texas. That's just like a small regional show. His one loss, was to to Chase Sherman. Wow, look at that. He fought one fight in 2014 and then took 8 years off after that.
Wow.
And since he's come back, which is only since last year, he's had 5 fights. He's had 5 fights in 11 months. And he stopped all of his opponents in the first round, and all of them in no more than 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and many of them in substantially less than that. Well, we know what he's going to try to do. He's going to try to go out there and take out Parker Porter right away. I would imagine Porter's going to be a somewhat substantial favorite here. Let's see. And the odds show that Parker Porter is a little bit less than 2-1 favorite. I don't know. I if it was even, I like Parker a lot. We're not only talking betting, but as far as who would win, who knows how good this guy is? There's no way to know, and there's no way to know what happens if it gets out of the first round. I just don't. To me, this is a no bet type of thing. I would lean Porter, but maybe Braxton Smith is that good. But in his debut, and that's short for a heavyweight, he's like another Chris Barnett out there, but heavier. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what do you think?
I think I'm going to go with the newcomer. I think Porter in the last fight looked really tentative against Justin Taffer, and he got caught and was down. And Justin Taffer obviously hits really hard as well, but I think I'm going to go for the newcomer. I think I'm going to go for Braxton in this.
Sounds good. All right, mate. And man, I didn't think my voice would go like that. Sorry, excuse me, everybody.
Right.
Next up, I appreciate it. Next up, we better blaze through some of these because I think we've got we have 17 minutes. Okay. Yeah. Marina Rodriguez, Virna Jandiroba. That's going to be a really, really good fight. They're both very so good. Marina was on a killing streak until she met up with Amanda Lemos, and Lemos is a beast, and Lemos just took her out in a very tough fight. So she's going to want to get back on the winning track. She had a 4-fight win streak going before that. She's 36 years old at strawweight, which is past your prime for a fighter that lightweight. So she really needs to do something here and wants to get back on the winning track. And her fellow Brazilian, this is a battle of Brazilian versus Brazilian, and we've been seeing the Brazilian women go against each other a bit lately. Nevertheless, Virna Jandiroba is 34 years old, 18-3, coming off a win over Angela Hill. And before that, she lost to Amanda Ribas, beat Murata, lost to Mackenzie Dern. I'm imagining this fight is probably going to be slightly close. Yeah. They have a slight favorite, maybe 1.5 to 1, Marina Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez comes back with a vengeance. I think she knows that at her age, she's got to get back on the winning track. And I think she'll beat Verna Jandiroba, but should be a good battle.
Yeah, no, I agree. Marina Rodriguez is really good. As you said, one win away from becoming the next in line for a title shot, but unfortunately wasn't meant to be for her just yet. But I think before she hangs up the gloves, I do think she'll get at least one title shot. She's so close. She's knocking on the door, in my opinion. So I think she'll get one.
Absolutely.
And I think she'll win this fight.
Yep, I agree. Chaos Quinlan Williams, the man they call Chaos, the Ox fighter, is going against Rolando Bedoya. Bedoya out of Lima, Peru, fighting out of Shuta Box Academy. 26 years old. It does not show his height on this reference site, which is weird. He looks to be a bit of a taller fighter. 13-1, and he has been fighting in Fusion Fighting Championship. Where the hell is that? Which is in Peru. So that does not say a lot, although there's a lot of tough guys in Peru for sure. He didn't even not even the Contender Series. I have a feeling this is a late replacement. I'm almost sure that that's what we're seeing here. So nevertheless, Chaos Williams, my man out of Michigan, my home state, out of Murcielago MMA, my man and friend Curran Jacobs helped those guys with wrestling for about a year and a half or two. And so, he is coming off a split decision loss to Randy Brown. And he's a great fighter. In all honesty, look at his record. That was a split decision loss. And then he did lose a unanimous decision to Michelle Pereira. But that was very close. That could have gone his way as well. Yeah. So he's still 13-3. But if it were not for those two losses, he'd be on like a 12-fight win streak. My man Chaos has got to be like a 3-1 favorite here. Let's take a look. Yeah, just over 3-1 favorite, and that's what it should be. I don't think there's much of any chance Chaos loses this fight. I would put this in my parlays from here till the dogs come home.
Yeah, I agree with you though. I think Chaos gets it done. I think he gets it done quite early as well. I think within 2 rounds.
Yeah. Within 2 rounds, I would agree. 100%. All right, next up, Kennedy Enzochukwu and Devin Clark. I've interviewed both of them. Both of them are very good guys. Devin, the Brown Bear Clark, is trading now with Team Elevation and or Factory X, one of the two. I forget. They're both so near. They're near each other. But he is, I think it's Elevation Fight Team with Curtis Blades and a lot of great guys over there. He is 6 foot even at 205, so it's a little bit on the shorter side for the second heaviest division. Yeah, but a good wrestler and a rough, tough guy. His dad's usually in his corner as well. I think the last one not, but just a good dude. The Brown Bear is a cool dude. And anyway, he's coming off a good win where he was like a 2-1 underdog against Dawoon Jung. And in the UFC, he does have a winning record, although he's fought so many tough guys. Wow. I think it looks like he's maybe like 6-5 in the UFC, but his losses have been to Alexander Rakic, Jan Blachowicz, Ryan Spann, Anthony Lionheart-Smith, Ian Kutalaba, and the last one, Azmat Mirzakhanov, and then he beat Young. On the flip side of it, Kennedy Enzochukwu is a taller fighter. And I remember people butcher his name all the time, but on my show, I've interviewed him 3 times. And I did ask him, I said, how do you say that name? Because I think he's from Nigeria. And he said exactly this. And my mom was an English teacher, so I was able to hear what he said. He said his last name is pronounced Enzochukwu. So it's Kennedy Enzochukwu. And a lot of people try to think the Z is silent or the N is silent.
The N is silent.
No, nothing silent. Enzochukwu, Kennedy Enzochukwu, the African Savage, 6'5", big guy, tough dude over there training in Fortis MMA. And he just is coming off 2 wins against Carl Roberson and Ian Kutalaba, stopping both of them. This is a tough fight. Yeah, those are good ones. This is a tough. I bet you they make these odds almost even. No, they've got Kennedy as a slightly more than 2-1 favorite.
Mm.
There's value in Clark. I mean, could Kennedy win? Yeah, the extra length is very helpful, but Devin fights everyone he fights is taller than him.
Yeah.
I think Devin's live in this fight. I don't know that I say for sure he's going to win, but to me, I was thinking this might be a nearly a pickup, and instead they've got Kennedy as a over 2-1 favorite. So I think there's value in Clark, and I'm leaning Clark. What do you think?
I'm leaning towards Kennedy. I understand if you're putting a bet on to go for Devin,
Yeah,
but
right.
I think Kennedy gets it done. But shout out to Clark for taking on some of the fighters he's taken on. That's
Crazy.
It's a tough resume right there.
Yeah, like they threw him to the dogs. It's like every fight he
Yeah,
said, "I'll take it,
literally.
I'll take it, I'll take
Yeah,
it, I'll take it." So the man doesn't run from anyone. So yeah, that's gonna
yeah.
be a great fight. All right, we want to finish this off in less than 10 minutes. So let's go. Let's only spend the minute. Let's maybe go out of order a bit, because Dober and Frivola will talk. But Crone, Gracie, and Charles Jourdain. Let's just blast that out really quick. Charles Jourdain is a tough guy, the Canadian Air Jourdain. You gotta love that.
Yeah, fantastic name.
Yeah, amazing how he came up with that one. Yeah, but anyway, he's a tough guy. He's coming off a couple losses. He does want to win. Crone Gracie probably has taken 2 years out of it. Wow,
Yeah,
wow, 3.5 years out since he
yeah,
did
that
get
much.
the brakes beaten off him by Cub Swanson, but he took his
Yeah,
medicine. Yeah, I have no idea how to play this one. The odds are in favor of Charles Jourdain, about 2-1. I don't know. To me, I would probably pick a small play on Crone Gracie, because the Gracies have a lot of pride. I have a feeling Crone has probably worked on either his wrestling or his striking in the
yeah.
last 3.5 years.
You'd
And I have a
hope
feeling,
so.
yeah, he's going to need it. I have a feeling he'll have some surprises there. So I think a small play on the underdog, Crone Gracie, is what I would do. How about you?
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I remember in his debut fight against Bruce Leroy, he looked so good, but then Cub Swanson, he just couldn't get close to him, and his wrestling wasn't there, neither his striking. If he's improved on those aspects in the three-year layoff, then he's going to become a problem in this division.
Yep, exactly. Okay, we better go through these because we don't. You know what? We could technically go a minute or 2 or 3 over. Hannibal doesn't mind that, so we'll just do as good as we can. Because actually, my phone battery may be not that far. Let me actually take a look quick here, because I think perhaps we might even not have that much time unless I plug in. No, we should be fine. But let's aim to finish this in 15 minutes.
We will go.
I think. And sorry for anyone watching, but we had to. It's live podcasting. All right, Drew Dober and Matt Frivola. I hate that fight because I've interviewed both men several times over the years, and they're both really, really good guys. Yep, right. You were saying you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think. Yeah, they are two of the good guys in MMA, and I know that it's a bit of a cliche, but they are two of the good guys. I've got to go with Drew on this one. I just think he's in a good little run at the moment, and that win over Bobby Green, I think, will give him so much confidence going forward. Frivola is very good as well. I'm gonna edge towards Drew Dober though.
Yeah. Dober is on a 3-fight win streak. Matt is on a 2-fight win streak, but the men they fought have been a little bit different in levels. Actually, you know what though? Not really. Actually, Frivola's fought great guys as well. This is going to be a rough fight. I'm leaning toward Drew as well. It just seems like he's in such a great place, but it's probably going to be a firefight. There's going to be blood in this fight for sure. And both guys are really, really talented. So I hope they both do very well. The odds makers are got to be in favor of Drew, I would think. Wow, yeah, a bit more than 2-1 favorite, Drew Dober. But yeah, probably that is the case. But you never know. The steamroller Matt Frivola is double tough. And it should be that should be fight of the night, I would imagine, wouldn't you?
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Excuse me. Movsar Evloev undefeated against Bryce Mitchell. Man, Bryce Mitchell coming back after having the brakes beaten off of him by Ilya Topuria, and not coming back for a soft touch, is he? I mean, I wonder if he picked Evloev, or if the UFC just said, "Yeah, man, and you're not the A side anymore. We're gonna make the Russian the A side." Either way, it's tough to say. But let's take a look. Evloev is 6-0 in the UFC without a single stoppage, though. and one of them was a split, but he's beat tough guys: Sungwoo Choi, Enrique Barzola, Mike Grundy, Nick Lentz, Hakeem Dawodu, and Dan Ige. Out of his 16 wins, he's got only 7 stoppages, so he's not a huge finisher, but he fights lots of tough guys. Bryce Mitchell is very embarrassed and angry over that last fight. He was even saying he shouldn't have taken the fight. He was thinking of retiring. He had a lot of pride, and he didn't expect to get the brakes beaten off him by Topuria. And that was only 5 months ago. Not even quite. Or no, just a bit over. Anyway, I'm going to imagine they're going to make Mitchell the favorite. Let's take a look here. And no, Evloev is almost a 3-1 favorite.
Wow. Smart money definitely has to go on Bryce.
I think so. I think that, I mean, ideally, after you have your first loss where you're beaten like a redheaded stepchild, as they would say here in the United States, normally the fight you don't want to come back against is a guy who's got 16 wins in a row and no losses. Perhaps the odds makers are thinking that, but I think Bryce is going to be out for blood. I think Bryce is going to be angry in that fight, but he's got to be angry, but still focused and still calm and still methodical. But yeah, I think there's great value in Bryce there. Also, I'm sure he feels the pressure of not only wanting to win in spectacular fashion, but certainly he cannot afford a loss. But Evloev is tough. But then again, I think Bryce is live there. I'm leaning Bryce Mitchell. What do you think?
Yes, so am I. I think people are sleeping on Bryce. Topuria is a world-class, fantastic fighter. Bryce wasn't on that night, and Topuria definitely was. Bryce, I think everyone's forgotten about how Bryce was against Edson Barbosa, for example. And I mean, some of he's got twister submission under his belt. I've got Bryce for this one.
Yep, I think so too. Make some money on that one. Make a few quid, as you guys would say, on that fight. Huh? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Jessica Andrade, I'm telling you, I'm killing you. Who knew I was going to?
You're on fire tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it, mate. I appreciate it. All right, last 2, and let's blaze through these, or at least let's say last 3. All right, you know what? Though, let's not spend too much time on this one. Xiaonan Yan is very, very tough. 33-year-old at 115 pounds, and she lost to Carla Esparza, got stopped by her, and then a split decision to Marina Rodriguez. She did beat Mackenzie Dern just barely in a really close fight. And she's 5'5", 115 pounds, 33 years old. She's a good fighter, and she is fighting out of China. Okay, then we have Jessica Andrade, 31 years old, 24-10. The last fight she took on short notice against a very tough fighter in Aaron Blanchfield. I think she's going to want to come out and make up for that bad performance. I think she's going to beat the brakes off of Xiaonan Yan. And the favorite is Jessica, about a 2-1 favorite. Solid bet. Jessica Andrade, I think, comes back here, and I have a feeling she's going to stop Xiaonan Yan. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Andrade has shown, unless she respects your power, she will just keep on coming forward and walking you down, and then just hit you with just explosions.
And especially at 115, right? She's back at 115.
So strong at 115.
Yeah.
For me, it's Jessica Andrade. I mean, we've seen it so many times where she would just walk opponents down and have no respect for it. We saw it with Caitlin Chukagian, for example, just walked her down, have a vicious body shot, and then followed up with punches to stop her. I think Jessica Andrade gets the win, and a comfortable win, and I think she stops her opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. And next we have the co-main event, Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns. Man, I'm debating whether I need to plug in the phone, because I don't want this to cut out on us, because perhaps we'll go a few minutes on these. So I'm going to plug this back in. Hopefully that doesn't mess up the sound quality. Forgive us, everyone, for the video quality. It's my fault. Sound quality still okay?
Yeah, all good.
Excellent. All right. This is a great fight. I am curious. I think Bilal is slightly younger than Gilbert. Bilal is 34 years old, 5'10" at 170, training out of Rufus Sport, but also I know he spent a full camp at AKA with Habib, so I don't know where he is for this fight, but he is going to be the younger fighter by 2 years. Gilbert Burns, 5'10", 36 years old, training out of Kill Cliff. I think they're both a similar height, so I think they're both somewhere perhaps around 5'9.5" for 5'10".
Yeah.
Wow, 22-5 for Gilbert with 15 stoppages, 9 of them being submission wins. Bilal is 22-3. Wow, how close is that? And he has only 6 stoppages, though. A lot more decisions. Both of them have fought amazing fighters. Notable for Bilal is he's on an 8-fight win streak and then 1 no decision against Leon, but he was certainly losing in that fight against Leon. But nevertheless, other than that fight, he's on an 8-fight win streak, having beaten Curtis Millender, Takashi Sato, Lyman Good. I think none of the 3 are still in the organization, although tough men in their own right. Maybe Sato is. He beat Diego Lima, and then Damian Maia, who was kind of on his last legs. Good win over Stephen Thompson. Good win over Vicente Luque, and good win over Sean Brady. Notable wins for Dorino, Gilbert Burns. I feel Gilbert beat Hamzat. A lot of people agree with me.
Oh no, I had it 2-1 Hamzat. But I think if it had gone into a 4th round, I think Burns would have won.
Yeah, it was a very competitive fight. So if that was the case, he would be on a 4-fight win streak. But he has a 2-fight win streak. He beat Jorge Masvidal, Neil Magny. That loss to Hamzat, beat Stephen Thompson, did lose to his longtime friend and training partner, Kamaru Usman. I think that was the last time Usman was 100% at his best. Not taking anything away from Leon, because he still did beat an amazing Kamaru Usman. But anyway, this is such a tough fight. I mean, I'm going to say Gilbert would be favored, but not by much. Let's take a look, just slightly, about 1.5 to 1. This one could go either way. So let's look at this. Let's break this down. Neither man is an American collegiate wrestling star. Gilbert was raised in Brazil, and so he wasn't a wrestling star of any note, although he has improved his wrestling a lot. He's one of the Brazilians that have got wrestling. Bilal, I think, wrestled in high school, perhaps at college at a lower level, and likes his striking better than his wrestling, but is proficient enough in wrestling. Whose wrestling is better of the two? It's a bit hard for me to say. I think Gilbert likes to use it more than Bilal. But Bilal showed that his wrestling was good enough to stop Sean Brady, who desperately wanted to get that fight to the ground. So it's going to be quite close on the wrestling. On the striking, I think Gilbert strikes with more power, and evidenced by the stoppages. Bilal might have a more diverse striking skill set. The jiu-jitsu is certainly in favor of Gilbert Burns. Right. Although from all the years of training, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if Bilal was at least possibly a brown belt. And the fight will get slippery. So they're both such good guys. I've interviewed them both. They're both really good guys. But Bilal was known for having a really good sense of humor. He did a documentary series on his own about 7 or 8 years ago, following around his teammate Paul Felder when Felder was really becoming very well known and popular. Quite funny. Good sense of humor. Bilal remember the name Muhammad. I'm leaning Gilbert. I think probably the fact that their wrestling is going to be a wash, virtually even. Their striking is going to be a wash, virtually even. And then the jiu-jitsu advantage for Gilbert. But I would not be surprised if Bilal won. At some point at 36, Gilbert is going to slow down a little bit. But then Bilal's 34. I don't think I would bet a penny on this fight, but I'm leaning Gilbert. Curious to hear your thoughts and analysis.
Yeah, so I think it favors Burns. I think the fact that it's a 5-round fight and he's been asking for a 5-round fight, he's a sort of fighter a lot of the time gets stronger as the fight progresses as well. Bilal, it seems like it's going to have to cut a lot of weight, and I just don't think he has that explosion like Burns has, nor does he have the experience at this level as well. Burns has obviously, as you said, been there with Kamaru, with Hamzat. Bilal has obviously been in there with the current champion Leon, but that got stopped early because of a no contest. He was really good against Vicente Luque. I mean, there's an argument to say Bilal Muhammad should be having a title shot or scheduled for a title shot now. So kudos to him for even taking this fight. But for me, it's Gilbert Burns all the way for this one.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that Burns would be a better matchup for Leon as well, because not that Bilal hasn't improved since then. I think by training with the AKA camp with Habib, he probably has improved. But I think Gilbert against Leon would be a really good fight. Although, to wrap this up, do you think that would be next? Is something signed yet? I think Dana said it's going to be Colby Covington, but Leon said it's not. But then, unfortunately, Leon is not the one that can dictate how the fish and chips are made in this circumstance, as far as his opponents. But have you heard anything on that? I think it's going to be Colby. I think.
Still no news. I'd be very surprised if it isn't Colby, especially with all the hoopla that's been made about it.
Who would be next?
I think if it wasn't going to be Colby, then I don't think this fight would be happening.
I think you're right. Because Hamzat's out of the question. Shavkat just fought that very tough fight against Jeff Neal a short while back.
Shavkat needs one more. Shavkat needs one more win before he gets the title shot, in my opinion.
Yeah, and so I mean, are we forgetting anyone? I don't think they're not going to rerun Usman.
No.
And then who else is up there? I think these guys are. That's pretty much it. Yeah, right. So the winner of this fight, you would feel, should get the winner of Leon versus Colby.
Yeah, I believe so.
I would agree. And then perhaps one more win for Shavkat, and he'll do something. Yeah. Wonder Boy's looking quite good as well. But yeah. So, all right, here we go. Aljamain Sterling has been fighting regularly. He is the younger fighter at 33 years old to Henry Cejudo's 36 years old. He's the taller fighter by, I think, a solid 3 inches, with Henry Cejudo being shown at 5'4", Aljo at 5'7". 25 fights for Aljamain Sterling, having won 22 of them, and Henry Cejudo with just 18 fights, having won 16 of them. Henry Cejudo also having fought hundreds of fights in wrestling matches, so that kind of does give the advantage toward being in combat. But then again, Aljamain was a good collegiate wrestler, I believe, but nowhere near the level of Cejudo. Nevertheless, the jiu-jitsu is on the side of Aljamain Sterling. The striking is kind of the interesting question. A lot of people feel that if this was like 7 or 8 years ago, the striking might have been even. But Cejudo did start looking good in the striking prior to leaving. However, what's he been gone for now? 3 years?
2020 was his last fight.
May 9th of 20.
Wow, literally 3 years. That's crazy. That's gone so fast.
It has. It really has. Ring rust is a real thing. I know Dominic Cruz says it doesn't affect him. Some people have said the elite of the elite, the best of the best, it won't affect. I don't know if that's true. I mean, he's teaching a lot, which is great. You learn when you teach. He's coaching a lot of people, John Jones, and a tremendous amount of great fighters, which helps him. This is just such a tough one. Aljamain Sterling, let's take a look here. Sterling's last loss came against 6 years ago, nearly 6, 5.5, against Marlon Moraes, who caught him with a knee. Prior to that, he had lost 2 split decisions, one to Rafael Assunção when Assunção was still really good, and one to Brian Caraway when Brian Caraway was really, really good, and Aljo was kind of just getting his feet wet in the UFC. Other than that, other than those 3,
he's put a really good run together.
Yes, he could conceivably, with a couple things breaking slightly different, been an undefeated fighter. Great victories over TJ Dillashaw, although he was a bit injured, TJ, in that fight, but still split decision over Jan, and then a disqualification over Jan. Did submit Corey Sandhagen, beat Pedro Munoz, Jimmy Rivera, Cody Stamen, Brett Johns, Henan Barao. Henry Cejudo, having won in 2 different weight classes, beating Dominic Cruz, Marlon Moraes at 135, and then Dillashaw at 125, Mighty Mouse Demetrius Johnson This is such a tough fight.
This is a really tough one to call.
It is, and I'm so curious. I have a feeling they're going to make the odds nearly even. Let me take a look and see if I'm right.
I think Cejudo will be favorite.
Let's see. In the United States, dead even nearly everywhere you look. Actually, one sports book has Cejudo the slightest of favorites, but it's a pick'em in most. Well, actually, 2 sports books have Cejudo the slightest of slight favorites. All the other ones have it a pick'em. So hard to know what Cejudo has left.
Yeah.
So hard to know what he has left. I wouldn't bet a penny on this fight. I would lean toward. I'm leaning Aljamain Sterling because of the 3 years off, and but I wouldn't bet a penny on this fight. It's going to be very interesting, though, and it's going to be interesting to see if this goes a distance or not. I have a feeling it's hard to say. I have a feeling it might not. Curious to hear your thoughts.
So, do I go with my head or my heart? Because Aljo is a fellow Jamaican.
Right. Oh, that's right.
So,
I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Didn't realize you had Jamaican in you.
Yeah. So I would like him to win, even though Henry Cejudo is actually growing on me. I really didn't like his gimmick, but he's growing on me because he's the opposite to Colby. He leans into his character, but his character hasn't become him, and he knows when to switch off the character and be himself and when not to. He's a phenomenal competitor, though. He just knows how to win, like in life in general, but especially in combat sports. If he's not rusty, I think he gets the job done. But if there is any hint of rust, I think Aljo gets him out, and I think he gets him out within a couple of rounds.
Yeah, not only that, but at 36 years old, wow, I really didn't hydrate myself properly. Excuse me. At 36 years old, that's quite old for a bantamweight. It really is. Yeah. So, along with the rust, it's possible that Cejudo may have indeed lost a step in the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And if he has, he's in trouble. And I think just the chances of the ring rust and him possibly have losing a step, makes me lean Aljo. But wow, if Aljo wins, you know what? Someone told me on pretty good authority, although it's not the source themselves, so I wouldn't guarantee this, but someone's told me that Aljo, if he wins, would like to face Sugar Sean. And,
yeah, that makes sense.
And so then he would probably go up to 45. But yeah, so I'll throw it back to you. So what do you think? I know if he's lost a step, if there's ring rust or if he's not as good as he was, I think you're agreeing that it would be Aldo. But if he hasn't and he is as good as he was 3 years ago, you're leaning Cejudo. Is that it?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with my heart. I'm gonna go Aljo. I've got to back Aljo.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Aljo gets a lot of hate because I think
unfairly as well.
Yeah, and the reality is this: it's a shame to think that if you get kneed illegally, that you're kidding and you should be just fine. Some people don't know sports. I'm not going to say I've ever fought professional MMA or amateur, but I've not competed. Well, in intra-school, I did a lot of really small tournaments at the karate schools that I was at. Not a lot of them, several, and then in jiu-jitsu, a couple outside. But you get caught with a knee that is an illegal technique and you weren't prepared for it. I don't think he was faking it all. You know what I mean?
No,
he's a double tough guy. But yeah, so that's the people that think that. So Aljo's a good dude. Yeah. So I think we both are leaning Aljo. I think he's got a good shot, but it's going to be exciting to see. Should be an overall great fight night and some good names in there. And I think there's going to be some argument, I think, when all is said and done as to what the fight of the night is.
I think you might. Which one did you say again? Drew
Dober.
I think Dober. I think he's gonna be Drew. Drew's just not in boring fights. Yeah.
He absolutely he really has, and he's exciting, and so is Frivola. But yeah, I think this should be a really good night, and I'm looking forward to it. And we got to make sure to see it. I think again, it's going to be one of this normal late night fights for you. So let me see if the main card here, I think, is going to be starting perhaps around 7.
Yeah, 3.
And it's
Yeah,
going to
3 a.m. for me.
Yeah, let me see. That would be 3 a.m. There we go. Yeah, you're never really going to be having fish and chips at 3 in the morning, are you?
No, definitely not.
Oh man, is there how old will your sons have to be before you allow them to stay up till 3 in the morning to watch the fights? Ever, or probably in high school maybe?
I reckon for the older one, maybe a few years if he gets into it. They both really are starting to get into it. I just don't. The youngest one's going to be a few years because he's only 1.
Right.
My oldest is going to be 4 this month, maybe a year or so. But he'd have to sleep like before, and I'd have to wake him up for him to watch it, and then that could really mess up his body clock, which could be a crazy one. So
that's true. You might have an argument with your wife on that.
Yeah. I could be in the doghouse or on the sofa for a couple of days.
But your son would probably love it. He would probably have a blast.
Well, here's the beauty. I can watch it live, and then I can record it for him, and then he can watch it when he wakes up in the morning.
True.
So
that's true. There you go. There you go. Might be better. Well, I tell you, mate, I think we did a great breakdown here, and this is a fun, interesting show, and I'm glad I could have you laughing, and always great to chop it up with you, as they say here, Callum. Why don't you give a thought, and then I'll close it. But yeah, let people know where they can find the great other projects that you're involved with.
So I've also got a channel called The Sanderson Show, where myself and a co-host, we do the watch-alongs, we do previews and interviews, etc. That's how we met, because you're gracious and kind enough to come on my channel. And you can find me at Callum Sanderson on all social media platforms as well. So
absolutely, you do know you share the last
and on
name.
hair, obviously, as well.
Absolutely. And you share the last name with one of the most prolific American collegiate wrestlers. Kale Sanderson, yep. So that's always good so just that Sanderson name can add legitimacy here, just for what it is. Anyway, we're legit. Anyway, as you guys can get, appreciate you. Check out Callum's other projects; they are fantastic.
Thank you.
And you're welcome, man. So my pleasure. Always great to chat with you. And Colin Crandall, MMA Power Hour. We're doing our show on Twitter Spaces as well, and I'm doing some other projects as well. Some for UFE Ultimate Fan Experience, some interviews as well, but nevertheless, right here is where you will find me and Callum. Chris Allen should be back for sure next week. And I think that's about it. We will wrap it up for the MMA from London to LA. Colin Crandall for Callum Sanderson. Hope you guys have a great week. Enjoy the fights. Peace.
Take care.